She had been pressing their silk shirts for 9 years. 9 years of smoothing collars. She could never afford to wear folding linen that cost more than her rent. Then Tiana opened the wrong drawer in the Whitfield study and found a birth certificate with her own name on it. Her full name, her exact date of birth, tucked behind their family insurance documents like it belonged there. Something in Tiana's hands would not stop shaking. She read her name, read a mother's name she had never once heard spoken aloud, and saw Eleanor Whitfield's signature on the Guardian line. In 48 hours, that single piece of paper will force Tiana to choose between the family who raised her in silence and the truth they buried for 31 years. But first, she needs to understand what she found. Because the rich family was not just her employer. The woman she called Mrs. Whitfield was not just her boss. And the man who built this house, the man whose shirt she had been pressing for nearly a decade, he knew exactly who Tiana was the day he hired her. He knew whose daughter was standing in his laundry room. He knew, and he never said a word. Some secrets protect people. Others just protect the people who are keeping them. This is not just a story about a woman who ironed clothes for a family that owed her everything. This is about whether the people who keep your truth from you can still call themselves your family, and whether knowing where you come from changes who you have already become. Because Tiana had already become someone. She had built a life out of nothing, out of no parents, no last name that meant anything, no story to tell when people asked where she came from. She had built that life with her own 2 hands. And now a single document in someone else's drawer was threatening to tear it all apart. The morning heat in Atlanta pressed down on the Whitfield estate like a secret too heavy to carry any longer. Tiana Cole had been working at the Whitfield house since she was 22 years old, 9 years. She started the summer after Aunt Loretta died when she had nothing left. No family, no savings, no college degree, just a used iron and a talent for making wrinkled fabric look brand new. She answered an ad on a community board at her local laundromat. Housekeeper needed, full-time, good pay, live out. The Whitfield estate sat on 3 acres in Buckhead, one of those old money neighborhoods in northwest Atlanta where the lawns looked like they had been painted green and the driveways were longer than the street Tiana grew up on. The house itself was a brick colonial, white columns, black shutters. The kind of house Tiana had only seen in magazines. She almost did not go to the interview, almost talked herself out of it on the bus ride over staring out the window at the neighborhoods, getting nicer and nicer, thinking she did not belong anywhere near a place like this. But she went, and Eleanor Whitfield hired her on the spot, did not even check references, just looked at Tiana for a long moment, something unreadable moving across her face, and said, "When can you start?" Tiana should have wondered about that. Looking back, she should have wondered about a lot of things. She should have wondered why Eleanor let her eat at the family table when no other staff member was allowed to. Why Eleanor bought her a birthday gift every single year. A nice one too. Not the kind of thing you give the help. Why Eleanor sometimes stared at her across the room with that look on her face, a look that was not quite sadness and not quite guilt, but something in between, like she was seeing someone else when she looked at Tiana, someone she missed, or someone she owed something to. But Tiana did not wonder. She was too grateful to wonder, too busy surviving. Before the Whitfield house, Tiana had grown up in the foster care system. Every year in America, over 400,000 children live in foster care. 1 in 3 of them will age out of the system without ever finding a permanent family. And most of them, the vast majority, will never learn the full truth about where they came from. Tiana was one of them. She had no memory of her biological parents. Her earliest memory was a group home in East Point, Georgia, thin mattresses, fluorescent lights, a woman whose name she could not remember, telling her it was time to eat. She moved through 3 foster homes before Aunt Loretta took her in at age 7. Loretta Cole was not really her aunt. She was a retired school bus driver who had fostered over a dozen children across 3 decades. She was strict, practical, and she loved Tiana fiercely. She taught Tiana how to cook, how to clean, how to iron a collar so crisp it could stand on its own. She also taught her that not knowing where you came from did not mean you were nobody. The only thing Tiana had from before the foster system was a small tin box. Inside it was a single photograph, faded, creased slightly out of focus. It showed a young woman holding a baby. The woman was smiling. Wide, bright, like the baby in her arms, was the best thing she had ever seen. On the back, written in fading ink, were 3 words: "My baby girl." Tiana did not know who the woman was. Aunt Loretta did not know either. Or if she did, she never said. The photograph was just a ghost, a warm, nameless ghost that Tiana carried with her everywhere. Now at 31, Tiana's life had a rhythm. She woke at 5:30, took the bus to Buckhead, arrived at the Whitfield estate by 7. She spent her mornings doing laundry, her afternoons ironing, her evenings cleaning whatever needed cleaning. The ironing was her favorite. There was something meditative about it. The hiss of steam, the smooth glide of hot metal over fabric, the way a wrinkled shirt became perfect under her hands, every crease erased, every surface made clean and flat and new. She was good at it, better than good. Andre Whitfield Sr. had noticed. Before he died 2 years ago, he used to sit in his study while Tiana worked in the laundry room next door. Sometimes he would stand in the doorway and watch her press his shirts. "You have a gift," he told her once. "Patience, precision. Most people rush through things. You take your time." She had just smiled and thanked him. He was the boss. You smile and say thank you. That is what you do. But sometimes, when he watched her work, his expression changed. His jaw would tighten, his eyes would get wet, and then he would turn away quickly, like he had seen something he was not supposed to see. Tiana never asked why. She figured rich people just had their moods. After Andre Sr. passed, Eleanor had become quieter, more distant. The house felt different without him, heavier, like it was holding its breath. Eleanor stopped eating at the table most evenings. She spent long hours in Andre's old study with the door closed, and she never not once asked Tiana to clean that room. Until now. It was a Tuesday in late August. The Atlanta heat had been brutal for weeks, the kind of heat that turned the air into something you had to push through just to walk across a room. Eleanor called Tiana into the hallway that morning. She looked older than usual, tired. "I need you to clean out Andre's study," she said. "I am selling the house. It is time." "Yes, ma'am," Tiana replied. "Sort everything into boxes, papers in one, personal items in another. If you find anything that looks important, set it aside for me." Eleanor hesitated, just for a second. A flicker of something passed behind her eyes. "And, Tiana, if you find anything you do not understand, just set it aside." Tiana nodded, not thinking much of it. The study smelled like old leather and cedar. Bookshelves lined the walls. A heavy oak desk sat in the center, the kind of desk that looked like it had been there for 50 years. Tiana started with the shelves. Books, photographs in silver frames, awards and plaques from business associations. Andre Sr. had been a real estate developer. He built affordable housing developments across metro Atlanta. The community respected him. The walls proved it. She moved to the desk. Top drawers first. Pens, reading glasses, a leather-bound address book. The middle drawer held file folders, insurance policies, property deeds, tax records. Tiana placed them neatly into a box, not reading them, not her business. The bottom drawer stuck. She pulled harder. It scraped open, and inside she found a different kind of collection. No files, no folders, just loose papers, a few envelopes, and something at the very back, tucked beneath an old bank statement. A yellowed envelope. No name on it. No label. Sealed, but the glue had long since given up. Tiana opened it. Inside was a single document. A birth certificate from the state of Georgia. She glanced at it casually, expecting it to belong to Andre Sr. or maybe Eleanor. The name on the certificate was Tiana Marie. Her hand stopped. Date of birth, February 14th. Her birthday. Place of birth, Grady Memorial Hospital, Atlanta, Georgia. Her eyes moved down the page. Mother, Denise Marie Holloway. She had never heard that name in her life. Father. Andre Whitfield. Tiana's vision blurred. She blinked. Read it again. Andre Whitfield. The man whose study she was standing in. The man whose shirts she had pressed every weekday for almost a decade. Guardian/adoptive contact. Eleanor Whitfield. The birth certificate slipped from Tiana's fingers and floated to the floor, landing face up on the hardwood. She stared at it from above this piece of paper that had been sitting in a drawer 10 feet from where she ironed clothes every single day. The iron was still on in the next room. She could hear it. That soft, steady hiss, pressing someone else's shirt while her entire life rewrote itself under her feet. Andre Whitfield was her father. Eleanor Whitfield knew. She had always known. And Denise Marie Holloway was a name Tiana had never heard anyone speak. Not Aunt Loretta, not the social workers. Not a single person in 31 years. Tiana did not cry. She did not scream. She did not run to Eleanor and demand answers. She bent down slowly, picked up the birth certificate, folded it carefully along its original crease, and slipped it into the pocket of her work apron. Then she walked back to the laundry room, picked up the iron, and finished pressing the shirt. Her hands were still shaking, but the creases came out perfect. They always did. What Tiana does next with that birth certificate will either give her the family she has spent her whole life searching for, or destroy the only home she has ever known. But before she confronts anyone, she needs to find out who Denise Marie Holloway was. And what she discovers will change everything. That evening, Tiana sat on the edge of her bed in the small apartment she rented in College Park south of the city. The birth certificate lay on the mattress beside her, still folded like it might unfold itself and start talking if she left it alone long enough. Denise Marie Holloway. She typed the name into her phone. Her fingers were clumsy. She misspelled it twice before getting it right. The results were thin. No social media, no public records that jumped out. But on the second page of results, she found an obituary archive from a community newspaper. Denise Marie Holloway. Born March 3rd. Died November 21st, the year Tiana turned 1. She would have been 23 years old. Cause of death: complications from systemic lupus erythematosus. Tiana stared at the screen. She had heard of lupus, but did not know much about it. She searched again. Lupus is an autoimmune disease that causes the body to attack its own tissues and organs. It can affect the kidneys, the heart, the lungs, the brain. It is chronic, often unpredictable, and there is no cure. And here was the part that stopped Tiana cold. Black women are 2 to 3 times more likely to develop lupus than white women. They are diagnosed, later treated less aggressively, and die from it at higher rates. In lower-income communities where access to specialists is limited, the disease often goes undetected until the damage is severe. Denise had been 22 when Tiana was born, 23 when she died. A young black woman in South Atlanta working at a hair salon, raising a baby alone while her body quietly destroyed itself from the inside. She did not abandon Tiana. She did not choose to leave. She died. Tiana set the phone down and reached for the tin box on her nightstand. She opened it slowly, the way she always did, like the photograph inside might crumble if she was not careful. She pulled out the picture. The young woman holding the baby. That wide, bright smile. Tiana looked at the smile differently now. She looked at the curve of the woman's jaw, the shape of her nose, the way her eyes crinkled at the corners. She held the photo closer. Then she held it next to her own face, reflected in the dark screen of her phone. The resemblance was not subtle. It was obvious. She had just never had a reason to see it before. She turned the photo over. My baby girl. The ink was faded, but the handwriting was deliberate, careful, the kind of letters someone writes when they want the words to last. Denise wrote this. Denise held her. Denise smiled like Tiana was the best thing she had ever seen. And then lupus took her away before Tiana was old enough to remember any of it. But if Denise died, and Andre Whitfield was listed as the father on the birth certificate, then why did Tiana end up in foster care? Andre Whitfield had money. Andre Whitfield had a house, a family, resources. He could have taken her in. He could have raised her. Eleanor was listed as guardian contact, which meant she knew Tiana existed. They both knew. and they let her disappear into a system that swallowed children whole. Tiana closed the tin box. She folded the birth certificate one more time and placed it inside next to the photograph. 2 pieces of paper. One from a mother who died too young. One from a father who chose silence. She did not sleep that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Fans spinning slow circles above her. And for the first time in her adult life, Tiana Cole was not thinking about whose clothes she had to press in the morning. She was thinking about her own name, and the people who had known it all along. Tiana arrived at the Whitfield estate the next morning at 7, same as always. She parked her bag in the laundry room, same as always. She walked through the hallway where the family portraits hung in gold frames, same as always, but nothing was the same. Eleanor was in the sunroom, sitting at the small round table where she took her morning tea. Bone china cup, saucer, a single slice of toast she had barely touched. Sunlight came through the windows and lit up the room in soft gold. It looked peaceful. It was about to stop being peaceful. Tiana walked in without knocking. She reached into her apron pocket, pulled out the birth certificate, unfolded it slowly, and placed it flat on the table next to Eleanor's teacup. She did not say a word. She just stood there, waiting. Eleanor looked down at the document. Her hand, the one reaching for her tea, stopped midair. Her face lost its color the way a photograph fades when left in the sun too long, slowly, completely. She set the cup down. It rattled against the saucer. The silence lasted a long time, long enough for Tiana to hear the clock ticking in the hallway, long enough to hear a bird outside, long enough for her to wonder if Eleanor was going to pretend she did not know what she was looking at. She did not pretend. "I wondered when this day would come," Eleanor said quietly. Tiana's jaw tightened. "So it is true. Yes, Andre Whitfield was my father." Eleanor closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were wet. "Yes, Andre was your father. And you knew. This whole time. 9 years I have been in this house. You knew. I knew before you walked through the door, Tiana." The words hit like a slap. Tiana gripped the back of a chair to steady herself. How Eleanor's voice was barely above a whisper. "He was already married to me when he met your mother, Denise. She worked at a salon in South Atlanta. Andre went there for a haircut one afternoon, and he came back different. I could feel it. The way a wife always can. How long? A few months. It ended before you were born. Or I thought it did. And when she got pregnant, Eleanor's face crumpled. Andre wanted to help her, wanted to be involved. Denise refused. She told him to stay with his family. She did not want to be the reason his son lost his father." Eleanor paused. "Your mother had more integrity than either of us deserved. Then she died," Tiana said. "Lupus. She was only 23. When Andre found out he wanted to bring you home, he came to me and said we had to take you in. That you were his child and you deserved to grow up in this house. And you said no." Eleanor did not look away. "I said no. I told him if he brought that baby into our home I would file for divorce and take Andre Jr. with me. I was hurt, Tiana. I was angry. I had a 2-year-old son and a husband who had betrayed me, and the last thing I wanted was a living reminder of that betrayal sleeping down the hall." Tiana's voice was steady, but her eyes were burning. "So you let me go into foster care." "I let you go into foster care," Eleanor repeated. And the way she said it flat and unflinching made it clear she had said those words to herself 1,000 times before. "He could have fought for me," Tiana said. "He had money. He had lawyers. He could have found a way. He could have." But in the early 90s, an unmarried father trying to claim a child, especially a black man going through the family court system, it was not simple. The legal process was slow, expensive, and I made it very clear that if he pursued it, he would lose everything else. Eleanor's hands were shaking now. "I am not proud of that. I need you to know that." "But he never stopped looking," Eleanor continued. "Every year he sent money to whatever foster family you were placed with. Anonymous donations. He hired a private investigator twice. When your Aunt Loretta took you in, he made sure she received additional support through a community fund he set up. He could not be your father out loud, so he tried to be your father in silence." Tiana felt the room tilt. Aunt Loretta. He knew about Aunt Loretta. He knew about all of them. Every home you were in, every school you attended, he kept records. And when I showed up here 9 years ago looking for a job, Eleanor's voice broke. He recognized you the moment you walked in. You looked just like Denise. Same smile. Same way you tilt your head when you are listening. He hired you on the spot. I told him it was a mistake. I told him it would only make things harder. But he said he had already lost 30 years and he was not going to lose another day. He watched me iron his shirts, Tiana said slowly. Every afternoon, he sat in that study and he watched me work. And I thought he was just being polite. I thought he was just a nice old man. He was watching his daughter, Eleanor said. And it was the only way I let him have you. Tiana stood completely still. The sunlight had shifted. It no longer looked warm. It looked harsh, exposing. You watched me iron your husband's shirts for 9 years. You knew I was his daughter, and you said nothing. Eleanor had no answer for that. Some truths do not come with explanations. They just come with weight. There is something I need to tell you, Eleanor said, about how your mother and father met, about what really happened. Because what I just told you is only part of it. Tiana sat down, not because she wanted to, because her legs would not hold her anymore. Eleanor folded her hands in her lap the way she always did when she was about to say something difficult. 32 years ago, Andre was building his company, Whitfield Development. He was putting up affordable housing across South Atlanta. Duplexes, small apartment buildings, homes for working families. He believed in it. It was not just business for him. He grew up poor. He never forgot that. He met Denise at a hair salon on Jonesboro Road. She was 21. He was 36. She cut his hair, and they talked for 2 hours. He came back the next week, and the week after that. Eleanor's voice went flat. I knew by the 3rd week. A wife knows. But I did not say anything because I thought it would pass, and in a way it did. By the time Denise found out she was pregnant, they had already ended things. But Denise did something remarkable, Eleanor continued. She called Andre, told him about the baby, and then she told him she did not want his money, did not want his name, and did not want him to leave his family. She said, "This is my child. I will raise her. You go home to your wife and your son." She put his name on the birth certificate, Tiana said. She did, because she believed a child deserved to know who her father was, even if that father was not around. She was honest about it, even when honesty cost her everything. And then she got sick. Eleanor nodded. Lupus. Systemic. It attacked her kidneys first, then her heart. She was in and out of Grady Memorial for months. She had no family, no siblings. Her parents had passed years before. When she died, the hospital contacted Child Services. You were 14 months old. In the early 1990s, unmarried fathers in Georgia had limited legal standing when it came to custody. The law did not automatically recognize a father's rights unless he had legitimated the child through a specific court process. Andre had not done that. He had respected Denise's wishes to stay away, and by the time she was gone, the system had already taken Tiana. He tried, Eleanor said. I will give him that. He hired a lawyer, filed paperwork. But the process was slow, and I was fighting him every step of the way. I threatened to go public, told him the scandal would ruin his business, his reputation. He was a black man in Atlanta building affordable housing. He could not afford a public scandal about an illegitimate child. Not then, so he gave up, Tiana said. He did not give up. He gave in. There is a difference. He stopped fighting the courts, but he never stopped fighting for you in his own way. Every check he sent, every time he tracked down your new address, every anonymous donation to your foster families, that was him fighting. He kept that birth certificate in his desk for 30 years, Eleanor said. Bottom drawer. I asked him to throw it away once. He looked at me and said, "That piece of paper is the only honest thing I have left." I never asked again. Tiana sat with that. She sat with all of it. A mother who died too young but loved her enough to name her father on a piece of paper. A father who loved her enough to keep that paper in his desk for 3 decades, but not enough to fight the system that took her. And a woman sitting across from her, who had known the truth for 31 years and chose silence every single day. Nobody in this story was innocent. Nobody was purely evil. They were just people. Flawed, afraid, selfish, and human. What Eleanor just revealed should bring Tiana closer to understanding who she is. But the next piece of truth, the one Eleanor is still hiding, will make Tiana question whether she can ever trust anyone in this family again. And it involves Andre Jr., the brother she never knew she had. Tiana stood up from the table. She did not say goodbye. She did not say she would be back. She picked up the birth certificate, folded it along its creases, and walked out of the sunroom through the hallway with the family portraits past the laundry room where her iron was still sitting on the board, and out the front door. She did not look back. The drive home took 40 minutes. She did not turn on the radio. She did not cry. She just drove both hands on the wheel, watching the Atlanta skyline shrink in her rearview mirror. When she got to her apartment, she sat on the floor with her back against the bed, the birth certificate in one hand, the tin box in the other, her mother's face in a photograph, her father's name in ink. 9 years. She had pressed their sheets, washed their dishes, scrubbed their bathrooms, cooked their holiday meals. She had been their daughter standing in their kitchen, and they had let her believe she was nobody. A foster kid with no last name that meant anything. A woman with no history, no roots, no story. But she was somebody. She was Andre Whitfield's daughter. She had a brother she had never met. She had a mother who loved her enough to write "my baby girl" on the back of a photograph before lupus stole her away. And there was one question Eleanor had not answered. One thing she had carefully stepped around. Andre Sr. had money. Real money. The kind of money that gets written into legal documents and divided among heirs. If he knew Tiana was his daughter, and if he kept her birth certificate in his desk like a promise he could not keep in person, then surely he had left her something. Surely there was a will. Eleanor had not mentioned a will, and Tiana was beginning to understand that the things Eleanor did not say were more important than the things she did. 3 days after Tiana walked out, her phone rang. Unknown number. Atlanta area code. "Is this Tiana Cole?" A man's voice. Deep, careful. The kind of voice that sounded like it had been rehearsing what to say. "Who is this?" "My name is Andre Whitfield Jr. I think you already know why I am calling." Tiana's hand tightened around the phone. She did not hang up. She did not speak. She just waited the way she had waited in Eleanor's sunroom, letting silence do the work. "My mother told me," Andre said. 3 days ago. I have not slept since. I need you to know that I did not know. I swear to you I did not know." "What exactly did she tell you?" Tiana asked. "That my father had a daughter before I was born. That her mother died. That she grew up in foster care. And that she has been working in our house for 9 years. Tiana let out a breath she did not realize she had been holding. "And what do you want?" "I want to meet you, if you will let me." "Why?" "Because you are my sister, and I have spent 3 days looking at my childhood and realizing that everything I had, every birthday party, every Christmas morning, every tuition check, every single thing you should have had too." Tiana closed her eyes. Those words landed somewhere deep. Somewhere she had been protecting for a very long time. "There is a diner on Moreland Avenue," she said. "Mama Joe's. You know it, I will find it. Tomorrow. Noon. Come alone." He came alone. No suit, no briefcase. Jeans and a plain white shirt, like he had thought carefully about not looking like he had more than her. The diner was small. Formica tables, vinyl booths. The kind of place where the coffee was strong and the waitress called everyone baby. Andre Jr. was tall, broad shoulders. He had their father's jawline, but softer. His eyes were different from Tiana's, lighter. He looked like a man who had been carrying something heavy for 3 days and was not sure where to put it down. He slid into the booth, across from her. For a moment, they just looked at each other. 2 strangers who shared blood. 2 people who had lived 3 miles apart for 9 years and never known it. "Thank you for meeting me," he said. "I almost did not come," Tiana replied. "I would not have blamed you." The waitress came. They both ordered coffee. When she left, the silence returned. I keep trying to find the right thing to say, Andre said. But there is no right thing. You grew up without a father. I grew up with one. You had foster homes. I had a bedroom with my name on the door. You were pressing our shirts while I was in law school. Do not, Tiana said sharply. Then softer, do not list it. I already know. Andre nodded. Fair. Your mother said your father wanted to bring me home. He did. She told me everything. About Denise, about the ultimatum, about him sending money to your foster families. I had no idea. I grew up thinking I was an only child. My father never mentioned you. Not once. He mentioned me to his desk drawer, Tiana said quietly. Andre looked confused. He kept my birth certificate in his study, bottom drawer, for 30 years. I found it last week when your mother asked me to clean out the room. Andre stared at the table. His jaw worked. That sounds like him, keeping things close that he could not say out loud. I need to ask you something, Tiana said, and I need you to be honest. Ask. Your father's will. What did it say about me? Andre set his coffee down slowly. The cup made a small sound against the saucer. How did you know about the will? I did not. But your mother did not mention it. And when someone avoids a subject that carefully, it usually means the subject matters. Andre looked at her with something like admiration. You are smart. Dad would have liked that. What did the will say, Andre? He took a breath. Dad rewrote his will about 5 years before he died, right after his cancer diagnosis. I read it when I was handling his estate. There were provisions for my mother, for me, for his business partners. And there was a section near the end. He paused. It said, to my daughter Tiana Marie, whose birth certificate I have kept as a testament to my greatest failure and my deepest love, I leave 40% of my total estate, including my share in Whitfield Development, to be held in trust, until she can be located and her identity confirmed. Tiana felt the diner tilt. 40%. Mom is the executor of the estate, Andre continued. When Dad passed, she had the legal authority to manage the distribution. She never executed that section of the will. She told me she could not locate you, that the provision was contingent on identification, and she had no way of confirming who you were. I was in her house, Tiana said. I know. I was in her house ironing her husband's shirts, and she told the lawyers she could not find me. I know. Andre's voice cracked. I only found out 3 days ago, Tiana. When Mom told me everything, I pulled the will from the estate files and read that section again. I could not believe she had sat on it. She stole from me, Tiana said. Not loud, not angry, just flat, like she was reading a fact from a page. Legally, it is more complicated than that. But morally, yes. She kept you from what Dad wanted you to have. And what are you going to do about it? Andre looked at her across the table. This was the moment. The hinge. He could protect his mother. He could explain away the delay promise to look into it, bury it in legal process. Or he could choose his sister. I am going to make it right, he said. I do not know exactly how yet. Mom is 68. Her health is not good. I do not want to drag her through a courtroom. But I am not going to sit on this the way she did. You deserve what Dad left you. Not because of the money, because it was the one thing he could give you when he could not give you himself. Tiana looked at Andre Jr., this man she had never met, this brother who had slept in a bedroom down the hall from the room where she pressed shirts. She wanted to hate him. It would have been easier. But she could see it in his face, the same confusion and guilt and sadness that she had seen in Eleanor's eyes. He was not the enemy. He was just another person caught in the wreckage of decisions made before either of them could choose. I do not want to sue your mother, Tiana said. Good. Because I do not want you to either. But I want what is mine. Not because it is money, because he left it for me. He thought about me. He put my name in a legal document. It is the only time anyone in that family acknowledged I existed. Andre reached across the table. He did not touch her hand. He just placed his palm flat on the table close enough that she could reach it if she wanted to. You exist, Tiana. You have always existed. And I am not going to pretend we are strangers anymore. Tiana looked at his hand on the table. She did not take it. Not yet. But she did not pull away either. Some families are built in delivery rooms and living rooms and around kitchen tables. Others are built in diners on Moreland Avenue over bad coffee between two people who are learning what it means to share a last name neither of them chose. That night, Tiana did not sleep. She sat on the kitchen floor of her apartment with her back against the refrigerator and her iron in her lap. Not plugged in, not hot. Just sitting there heavy and familiar the way a Bible feels in someone's hands when they do not know what else to hold. It was a cheap iron. She bought it at a thrift store on Campbellton Road the week after Aunt Loretta died. $12. The handle was cracked, the cord was fraying at the base, but it worked. And for 11 years that iron had been the most reliable thing in Tiana's life. More reliable than any person, more consistent than any promise. She ran her thumb along the edge of it. This iron raised me more than any parent did. And the thing about that thought was it was not bitter. It was just true. She thought about the word daughter. She turned it over in her mind the way she turned collars on a pressing board. What did it mean to be someone's daughter when you did not know it until you were 31? Did the word change who she was? Did it change what she had done, what she had built, who she had become without it? Psychologists have a term for what Tiana was going through. They call it late discovery identity disruption. It happens to adults who find out, sometimes decades into their lives, that their biological parents are not who they thought, or that they were adopted, or that the family they trusted kept a secret that rewrites their entire origin. It is more common than most people realize. And it is especially devastating in communities where family disruption is already a systemic wound. In the Black community in America, the foster care system has disproportionately separated children from their families for generations. Children placed in care, records lost, names changed, connections severed. And by the time those children grow up and start asking questions, the answers are often buried too deep to reach. Tiana was not just processing a personal betrayal. She was sitting inside a much bigger story, one that had been repeating itself across this country for a very long time. She put the iron down and picked up the tin box, opened it, looked at Denise's photograph one more time. Then she looked at the birth certificate folded beside it. 2 documents. One from a mother who died before Tiana could remember her face. One from a father who watched her work every afternoon and never said a word. She thought about Andre Sr. Not the name on the certificate. The man. She remembered him standing in the doorway of his study watching her press his shirts. She remembered the way he asked her questions. Small ones. What are you reading these days? You ever think about going back to school? What would you do if you could do anything? She always answered politely, briefly, the way you answer your boss. But one afternoon, about a year before he died, Andre had said something different. She was pressing a white dress shirt, one of his favorites, and he was leaning against the doorframe with his arms crossed. You iron better than anyone I have ever known, he said. But you should not be ironing forever. She had smiled. I like ironing. It is peaceful. Peaceful is not the same as enough, he said quietly. And then he looked away the way he always did, that quick turn of the head, like something had stung him behind the eyes. She had not understood it then. She thought he was being generous. A kind old man encouraging the help. Now she understood. He was looking at his daughter and trying to tell her she deserved more without being allowed to say why. He was a father speaking in code because his wife had locked the truth in a vault and thrown away the key. And that was the part that hurt the most. Not the anger, not the betrayal, the closeness. She had been close to her father for 9 years, close enough to press his shirts, close enough to hear his voice every afternoon, close enough to smell his cologne on the fabric she smoothed under her hands, but never close enough to know. Tiana set the tin box down. She picked up the iron again, held it with both hands. It was cold and solid, and it belonged to her. Nobody gave it to her. Nobody left it in a will. She earned it herself with her own money on her own terms. And that, she decided, was worth something. Maybe more than anything in that Whitfield house. Tiana has spent 9 years pressing this family's clothes without knowing she was pressing her own father's shirts. Now she is about to walk back into that house, not as their maid, but as his daughter. And what Eleanor does next will either be the bravest act of love she has ever shown or the final betrayal that breaks this family apart for good. The next morning, Tiana called Andre Jr. "I am going back," she said. "To the house." Yes. I need to hear her say it. Not pieces, not half-truths. All of it. I need to hear her say she knows what she took from me. Andre was quiet for a moment. "Do you want me there?" "Yes." "Then, I will be there." Tiana hung up and got dressed. She did not wear her work clothes. No apron, no uniform. She put on a plain black shirt and jeans, and her own shoes, not the slip-ons she wore on the hardwood floors of the Whitfield estate to keep from leaving scuff marks. The drive to Buckhead took 40 minutes. Same route she had taken 1,000 times. Same highway, same exit, same long tree-lined road that curved toward the house. She knew every pothole, every speed bump, every mailbox. She had driven this road as a housekeeper. Today she was driving it as something else. The gates were open. Andre Jr.'s car was already in the driveway. He was standing outside, waiting, his hands in his pockets. He did not say anything when she pulled up. He just nodded. She nodded back. They walked in together. Eleanor was in the living room, the formal one, the one Tiana had vacuumed every Thursday for 9 years. The one with the cream-colored sofa she had never been allowed to sit on while she worked. Tiana sat on it now. She sat in the center of it, put her hands on her knees, and looked at Eleanor across the coffee table. Andre Jr. sat in the chair by the window. The room was quiet. The clock on the mantel ticked. Eleanor looked smaller than Tiana remembered. Her hands were folded in her lap, that old habit she had when she was preparing herself to say something difficult. "I thought about not coming," Tiana said. "I thought about just walking away, taking whatever the lawyers sort out, and never seeing this house again." "Why did you come back?" Eleanor asked. "Because I need you to tell me the rest. Not the version you told me before. Not the one that makes you look like a woman who was hurt. The real one. The one you have been carrying for 31 years. Eleanor looked at her son. Andre met her eyes but did not speak. This was not his moment to intervene. When Andre got sick, Eleanor began. Her voice was thin. The cancer. The pancreatic cancer. It moved fast. By the time they caught it, he had maybe 18 months. He started talking about things he had never talked about before. About Denise. About you. He said he wanted to tell you the truth before he died. "What did you say?" Tiana asked. "I begged him not to. I told him it would destroy everything we had built. This family, this house, your brother's future. I said if the truth came out, it would ruin all of it. And he listened to you. He listened to me. He always listened to me when it came to you. That was the deal we made 30 years ago. I would stay. I would keep the family together. But you would stay outside of it. That was my condition. And he accepted it because he was afraid of losing his son. But he put me in the will," Tiana said. Eleanor flinched. "He did. Without telling me. He rewrote his will during his last year and added a provision for you. I did not find out until after he died. And the estate lawyer walked me through the documents. And you chose not to honor it. I chose not to execute that section, yes." "Why?" Eleanor's eyes filled. "Because I was afraid. Not of the money. I was afraid that if you came into this family, really came in, you would replace me. You would be the daughter Andre always wanted, the one I could never give him, because I had made him choose. Andre Jr. would have a sister, and he would see what I had done, and he would hate me. I would become invisible in my own family." Tiana leaned forward. "You made me invisible. For 31 years. You are sitting here telling me you were afraid of disappearing, and you did not once stop to think that you had already made me disappear." Eleanor's mouth trembled. She did not argue. She did not defend herself. She just sat there and took it. Andre Jr. spoke for the first time. "Mom, you were wrong. You know that. I know. But Tiana, Andre said, turning to her. She is not the only one who failed you. Dad failed you too. He had your birth certificate in his desk. He watched you work in his house every day. He could have told you himself. He chose comfort over courage. Every single time. That landed. Tiana felt it settle somewhere in her chest, right next to the anger, right next to the grief. There is one more thing, Eleanor said, and her voice dropped so low that Tiana had to lean in to hear it. Before Denise died, when she was in the hospital, she wrote me a letter. She must have gotten our address from the hospital records, or maybe Andre gave it to her. I do not know, but she wrote to me directly. What did the letter say? Tiana whispered. She asked me to take care of you. She said she knew she was dying. She said she had no family left, and she asked me, woman to woman, mother, to please raise her daughter, to give you what she could not. The room was completely still. And what did you do? Tiana asked. Eleanor looked at the floor. I threw the letter away, and 2 weeks later Denise died and you went into foster care. Andre Jr. closed his eyes. His hand went to his forehead. He did not say anything. Tiana sat perfectly still. A dying woman. A 23-year-old mother with no family and a body turning against itself. She had written a letter to the wife of the man she loved, asking her to save her baby. And Eleanor had thrown it away. Some truths do not just hurt. They rewrite the entire history of your pain. They make you understand that every hard night in every foster home, every birthday, with no one to call, every time you looked at that photograph and wondered who the woman was, all of it traced back to one decision made by one person holding one letter. Eleanor knew it. You could see it in the way she sat there, not asking for forgiveness, not offering excuses, just sitting with the full weight of what she had done. That is the thing I can never undo, Eleanor said. I can give you the money. I can give you the house. I can give you every single thing Andre left you. But I cannot give you back the mother who asked me to save you. I cannot undo the no. Eleanor reached into the pocket of her cardigan and pulled out an envelope. It was old, not yellowed like the birth certificate, but worn soft at the edges, like someone had held it many times without opening it. Denise wrote this, Eleanor said. She mailed it to the house about a week before she died. It was addressed to you, not to me, not to Andre, to you. She wrote your name on the front. Tiana Marie. Eleanor held it out. Her hand was shaking. I kept it for 31 years. I told myself I was protecting you, but I was protecting myself. I did not want you to have her words because I was afraid her words would be better than anything I could ever offer. Tiana took the envelope. It weighed almost nothing. She turned it over. There on the front, in faded ink, was her name, Tiana Marie. And beneath it, in the same handwriting, the same careful letters she had seen 1,000 times on the back of a photograph, 3 words, my baby girl. The handwriting matched. The photograph in the tin box. The words on the envelope. The same hand had written both. Denise's hand. Tiana had carried her mother's handwriting with her for her entire life without knowing it. She opened the envelope carefully, the way you open something that might break. Inside was a single sheet of lined paper, the kind torn from a spiral notebook. The writing was neat, but uneven in places, like the hand that wrote it had been tired or weak. Tiana read it out loud. She did not plan to. But something in her needed to hear the words in the air, not just see them on a page. My dearest Tiana, you are 4 months old today. You are sleeping on my chest right now, and you are so warm. I can feel your heartbeat against mine, and it is the best thing I have ever felt in my whole life. I am writing this because I need to be honest with you, even though you are too small to understand. Mama is sick. The doctors say my body is fighting itself, and I do not know how long I have. Maybe years. Maybe not. I am praying for years. But just in case, I need you to have something from me. Something that lasts longer than I might. I want you to know that you were not an accident. You were not a mistake. You were the most deliberate, most wanted, most loved thing I have ever done. I chose you. Every morning, I wake up and I choose you again. Your father is a good man who made a hard choice. I do not blame him for it. He has a family, and I told him to go back to them. But I put his name on your birth certificate because you deserve to know where you come from. Both halves, his half and mine. I named you Tiana because it means princess, and Marie because that is my middle name. I wanted you to carry a piece of me wherever you go. If I am still here, when you are old enough to read this, I will tell you all of this myself, and we will laugh about how dramatic your mama was. But if I am not here, if you are reading this without me, then I need you to know one thing. You are enough. Whatever life gives you, whatever it takes away, you are enough. You do not need a big house or a family name or anyone's permission to matter. You already matter. You mattered the moment I felt you move inside me. You mattered the moment you opened your eyes and looked at me like I was the whole world. I asked a woman named Eleanor to take care of you if something happens to me. I do not know if she will say yes, but I am asking because I want you to be close to your father, even if he cannot say your name out loud. I want you to grow up knowing you were loved by people, imperfect people, but people who loved you. If you are reading this, baby girl, it means I did not make it, but you did. You survived, and that is all I ever prayed for. I love you more than I know how to write down. Mama. Tiana folded the letter. She pressed it against her chest. And for the first time since she found the birth certificate, for the first time since Eleanor's confession, for the first time since any of it, she cried. Not quietly, not politely. She cried, the way a person cries when 31 years of not knowing finally meets the answer. Deep, shaking sobs that came from somewhere she had been guarding her entire life. Eleanor sat across from her tears, running down her own face, saying nothing. Andre Jr. stood by the window, his back turned, his shoulders tight. The letter sat against Tiana's heart. 4 months old. Denise had written this with a baby sleeping on her chest and a disease eating her from the inside. She had written it knowing she might not survive. She had written it hoping someone would give it to her daughter, and no one did. For 31 years. But it was here now. And the voice in the letter, warm, simple, full of love that asked for nothing in return, that voice sounded exactly the way Tiana had always hoped a mother would sound. Tiana stood up. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. She looked at Eleanor. I need time, she said. I cannot forgive you today, maybe not tomorrow either. But I can try to understand. That is more than I deserve, Eleanor said quietly. Yes, Tiana agreed. It is. She left the house holding the letter and the tin box. 2 pieces of her mother. One she had carried without knowing. One that had been kept from her on purpose. Together they told a story that was small and enormous at the same time. A young woman who loved her daughter enough to write it down, and a world that failed to deliver the message. Forgiveness was not going to happen in a living room on a Tuesday afternoon. It was not going to happen over tea or tears or confessions. If it happened at all, it would take time, lots of it, and effort from every person involved. 2 months passed. Tiana did not go back to the Whitfield estate. She called Eleanor once briefly to say she would not be returning to work. Eleanor did not argue. She just said, I understand. Tiana found a job at a dry cleaning shop on Piedmont Avenue, a small operation. An older Korean couple ran the front. Tiana worked in the back, pressing shirts, steaming dresses, handling alterations. It was the same work she had always done, but the shirts were strangers' shirts now, and that made all the difference. She enrolled in evening classes at Atlanta Technical College, business management. She did not know exactly what she wanted to build yet, but she knew she wanted to build something that was hers. Andre Jr. called every week. Sometimes they met for coffee. Sometimes they just talked on the phone. He never pushed. He never asked about the will or the money or their mother. He just asked how she was doing, what she was studying, whether the dry cleaning shop treated her well. They were learning how to be siblings the way 2 adults learn a new language, slowly, awkwardly, with long pauses and misunderstood words. but with intention. Andre brought up the will once. "I could file a petition with the probate court," he said. "Force the execution of Dad's wishes. It is legally straightforward." "No," Tiana said. "Tiana, I do not want his money to come through a courtroom. If it comes, it should come because this family decided to do the right thing, not because a judge made them." Andre looked at her for a long time. "You sound like Dad," he said. "He always believed people would do the right thing if you gave them enough time." "Did they?" "Not always. But he kept believing it anyway. There are organizations across the country designed to help people in Tiana's situation. Adults who discover late in life that their biological parents are not who they thought. People who aged out of foster care and lost their records. Families separated by closed adoptions, sealed documents, and secrets that went on too long. Groups like adoption reunion registries and family mediation centers exist specifically for moments like this, when the truth finally surfaces and nobody knows what to do with it. Tiana did not use any of them. Not because she did not need help, but because she did not know they existed. Most people in her position do not. The system that separated them rarely tells them about the system that can reconnect them. But she did something else. She started writing. Not letters, not a journal, just notes, short ones. Things she wanted to remember. Things she wanted to say but was not ready to say out loud. She wrote about Denise, about the letter, about the photograph. She wrote about Andre Sr. sitting in the doorway of his study. She wrote about Eleanor's face when she said, "I was afraid of becoming invisible." She wrote about what it felt like to iron a shirt for someone who was secretly your father. Writing did not fix anything, but it gave the feelings somewhere to go besides her chest. Eleanor, meanwhile, was writing too. She had started a journal the week after Tiana left the house. Not a diary, not a memoir, a record. She wrote down every memory she had of Tiana working in the house. Every conversation. Every time Andre Sr. had mentioned Denise's name when he thought Eleanor was not listening. Every birthday gift Eleanor had chosen for Tiana, and the reason behind each one. She wrote it not to justify herself. She wrote it because Tiana had spent 31 years without a family history, and Eleanor was the only person alive who could give her one, even if that history was complicated and painful and full of mistakes. She mailed the journal to Tiana's apartment without a note. Just the book in a padded envelope with Tiana's address written in Eleanor's careful handwriting. Tiana read it in one sitting. She did not call Eleanor afterward, but she did not throw it away either. She put it on the shelf next to the tin box. Healing is not a moment. It is not a hug or an apology or a check from a lawyer. It is a series of small, difficult choices made over and over again. The choice to pick up the phone, the choice to read the journal, the choice to not say the cruelest thing you are thinking, even when you have earned the right to say it. Tiana was making those choices, one at a time, and so was Eleanor, and so was Andre. 5 months after Tiana found the birth certificate, Eleanor called. "I need to show you something," she said. "Can you come to the new apartment?" Eleanor had sold the Buckhead estate a month earlier. She moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in Midtown, smaller, simpler, nothing like the house Tiana had cleaned for 9 years. When Tiana arrived, Eleanor was waiting by the door. She looked thinner, older, but there was something different in her eyes. Not guilt, not fear, something closer to resolve. "I want to take you somewhere," Eleanor said. They drove together. Eleanor behind the wheel, Tiana in the passenger seat. They did not speak much. The car moved through downtown Atlanta, past the Capitol building, past the highway overpass, until Eleanor pulled into the parking lot of Grady Memorial Hospital. Tiana's stomach tightened. She knew this place, not from memory, from a birth certificate. They walked inside, past the emergency entrance, through a long corridor that smelled like antiseptic and old coffee. Eleanor stopped in front of the maternity wing. The hallway was quiet. A nurse pushed an empty wheelchair past them. "This is where your mother brought you into the world," Eleanor said. Her voice was steady but thin. February 14th, 7 pounds 2 ounces. Denise was alone, no family, no partner, just her and the nurses. Tiana touched the wall. 31 years ago her mother had walked through this hallway carrying her. "I should have brought you home from here," Eleanor said. "When Denise died, and you had no one, I should have come to this hospital and I should have brought you home. I did not. And that is the biggest regret of my life." She handed Tiana a box, a shoebox old held together with a rubber band. "What is this? Open it." Inside Tiana found 3 things. The original copy of Andre Sr.'s will, the full version with the provision that left her 40% of his estate. Eleanor's journal, a second volume, this one covering the years before Tiana came to work at the house, the years Andre spent searching for her, and a stack of photographs. Tiana flipped through the photographs slowly. They were all of her, working in the laundry room, standing in the kitchen, walking up the driveway in the morning. Some were taken from the study window, some from the hallway. All of them were taken without her knowledge. Andre Sr. had photographed his daughter in secret, the way someone photographs a bird they are afraid of scaring away. At the bottom of the stack there was one photograph that was different. It showed Andre Sr. sitting at his desk, turned away from his papers, facing the open doorway that led to the laundry room. Through the door, you could see Tiana, slightly blurred, pressing a shirt. Andre was not working. He was not reading. He was just watching her. The photograph was taken from behind him. "From the hallway." "You took this," Tiana said. "Yes. You took a picture of him watching me." "I did. He did not know I was there." "Why did you take it?" Eleanor's eyes filled. "Because he sat there every afternoon and watched you work. He said it was the only time of day he felt at peace. And I hated it. I hated that his peace came from watching a child I had refused to let him bring home. I hated that I was the reason he had to watch from a doorway instead of sitting next to you." She paused. Her voice cracked. "And I loved him for it. I loved him because even after everything I did, everything I made him give up, he never stopped finding ways to be near you. Both things were true. The hate and the love. Both of them. At the same time. For 30 years. Tiana looked at the photograph. Her father, watching her iron his shirts, the only closeness he was allowed. And behind him, unseen, his wife, watching him love the daughter she had turned away. 3 people in one photograph. None of them where they should have been. All of them exactly where the truth had put them. Eleanor just handed Tiana everything Andre Sr. left behind. The money, the photos, the truth. But what Tiana decides to do with that inheritance will not just define her future. It will prove whether 9 years of ironing someone else's clothes taught her bitterness or grace. Andre Jr. handled the legal work. As a lawyer, he knew exactly how to file a petition with the probate court to enforce the original terms of their father's will. Eleanor did not fight it. She signed every document Andre put in front of her, without argument, without hesitation, like a woman who had been holding a heavy bag for 30 years and was finally being allowed to set it down. The estate was significant. Not billionaire money, but real money. The kind of money that changes the shape of a life. Tiana's 40% came to just over $1.2 million, plus a share in Whitfield Development, the company her father had built. Andre called her when the transfer was finalized. "It is done," he said. "The funds are in the trust account. You can do whatever you want with them." Tiana was quiet for a moment. "I know what I want to do." "What?" "I want to build something. Not for me. For the kids who are where I was, the ones still in the system, the ones who aged out without ever knowing who they came from." She had been thinking about it for weeks, lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling fan, holding the tin box in her lap. She kept coming back to the same thought. If someone had helped her connect the dots earlier, if there had been a program, a resource, a single person whose job it was to match a foster child with their biological family, she might not have spent 31 years ironing a stranger's shirts 10 feet away from her own father. She called the foundation the Denise Marie Foundation. Named after a woman who died at 23 with no family, no savings, and no voice. The foundation would fund 3 things. Free DNA testing for foster care alumni searching for biological relatives. Psychological support for adults who discover their origins late in life. and legal aid for unmarried fathers trying to establish parental rights so that no child falls through the cracks the way Tiana did. Andre Jr. sat on the board. Eleanor donated the remaining proceeds from the sale of the Buckhead estate. It was not enough to undo 31 years. But it was enough to make sure the next Tiana would not have to find her own name in someone else's drawer. Sometimes, the best thing you can do with an inheritance is turn it into someone else's second chance. 2 years later, Tiana Cole owned a dry cleaning shop on a quiet block in the old Fourth Ward neighborhood of Atlanta. It was small, a narrow storefront with a glass door and a hand-painted sign above it that read, "Pressed." The name meant two things, and she liked both of them. Pressed like fabric under heat, and pressed like what life does to you when it wants to see what you are made of. She had finished her business certificate at Atlanta Technical College. She used a portion of her inheritance to lease the space and buy the equipment. The rest stayed in the foundation. She did not want the shop to be funded by Whitfield money. She wanted it to be funded by work. The shop had 4 pressing stations, a front counter with a bell that did not always ring, and a small back room where Tiana kept her things. On the wall behind the counter, she had hung 3 items in simple frames. The photograph from the tin box, Denise holding baby Tiana with "My baby girl" written on the back. Denise's letter, the one that ended with "You survived, and that is all I ever prayed for." And the photograph Eleanor had taken Andre Sr. sitting at his desk, turned toward the laundry room, watching his daughter work. 3 frames, 3 people. A mother who died too young, a father who loved in silence, and a daughter who found them both 30 years too late. Together on one wall, in a shop that smelled like starch and steam and something new. Andre Jr. came by every Saturday. He brought coffee and sat in the plastic chair by the window while Tiana worked. They did not always talk. Sometimes he read the paper. Sometimes she told him about a difficult customer. Sometimes they just existed in the same room, which is a thing siblings do when they have stopped trying to catch up on lost time and have started simply living in the time they have. Eleanor visited once a month. She was slower now. She used a cane. She sat in the same plastic chair Andre used on Saturdays and watched Tiana press shirts. She never said much during these visits, but she always stayed for at least an hour. And when she left, she always touched Tiana's hand, briefly, gently, like she was asking permission to be there and saying thank you at the same time. They did not pretend everything was fine. Forgiveness was not a moment. It was a series of small, difficult choices made over and over again. The choice to answer the phone, the choice to open the door, the choice to let someone sit in your shop and watch you work even when watching was the thing that started all of this. On a Tuesday afternoon in late October, Tiana stood at her pressing station smoothing the collar of a white dress shirt. The afternoon sun came through the front window and fell across the ironing board in a long, warm stripe. It looked exactly like the light that used to come through the window of the Whitfield laundry room. Same light, same motion, same hiss of steam under her hands. But the shirt belonged to a customer named Gerald who came in every Tuesday and always said, "Make it crisp, please." The shop was hers, the board was hers, and the iron the same one she had bought at a thrift store on Campbellton Road for $12 the week Aunt Loretta died, was still working, still reliable, still the most honest thing she owned. She looked up at the 3 frames on the wall. Denise's smile, Andre's quiet gaze, the letter that said "You survived." She had spent 9 years pressing clothes for a family that owed her everything. She had found her name in a drawer that should have been opened decades ago, and she had learned that the truth, no matter how late it arrives, always finds a way to iron out the wrinkles we thought were permanent. The iron hissed, the collar went flat, and Tiana Cole, daughter of Denise Marie Holloway and Andre Whitfield, senior sister of Andre Jr., owner of a small shop called Pressed, kept working, the way she always had, the way her mother would have wanted, with steady hands and a heart that chose grace when the world said she had earned the right to choose anger. If Tiana's story made you think about the family you never knew, the truth someone kept from you, or the forgiveness you are still weighing, leave a comment. Would you have forgiven Eleanor, or are some secrets too deep to bury? And if you had been in Andre Sr.'s place, watching your daughter from a doorway for 9 years, would you have found the courage to speak, or would you have chosen silence, too? We tell stories about people who choose truth when silence is easier and grace when anger feels earned. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join a community that believes every person deserves to know where they come from. Now I want to be clear about something. This story is fictional. Tiana, Eleanor, Andre, and Denise are not real people, but the issues this story touches are very real. At any given time, over 400,000 children are living in the United States foster care system. Many of them will age out at 18 without ever being reunited with their biological families. Many will never learn their own origin stories. Organizations like Adopt US Kids, Foster Club, and the DNA Doe Project are doing critical work to change that, helping people reconnect with lost family members, providing resources for those who have aged out of the system, and using DNA technology to help unidentified individuals find their names. If you or someone you know is searching for their biological family, these organizations are a good place to start. The links are in the description. And on a personal note, I wrote this story because I believe everyone deserves to know their own name. Not just the name printed on an ID card, but the name someone gave them with love, the name whispered into a baby's ear before the world got complicated. Tiana is not real, but the feeling of being invisible in a room full of people who should see you, that is something too many people know too well. The feeling of pressing someone else's shirt while your own life wrinkles up in the corner, that is real. The feeling of finding a truth that was always 10 feet away, hidden in a drawer that nobody thought to open, that happens every day. If this story gave you something to think about, that is enough. If it gave you the courage to ask the question you have been avoiding, to open the drawer, to make the phone call, to say the name out loud, that is everything. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And if you are still searching for your story, I hope you find it. Even if it is late, even if it is messy, even if it comes folded inside an envelope that someone should have opened a long time ago,